So in this video here, we're going to talk about how we can get into AI engineering as fast as possible. I'm here with my good friend Tech with Tim. You've probably heard about him before, or maybe seen some of his videos, courses, and so on. But we're basically just going to talk about how can we get into AI engineering. He's a software engineer. We're going to see if he has some tips to get into it from the software engineering background, because as I've been mentioning in some of my latest videos, it's way easier to get into AI from the software engineering background compared to the other way around, because it's way more about building systems, putting systems out there, system architectures, gluing everything together. AI is solving the problem, but it's only like 10-20% of a full-scale project. So let's just get straight into it and let's talk with Tim about how to get into AI as fast as possible. Yeah, so we're here with Tech with Tim. You've probably heard about him before. So can you introduce yourself? What are you doing? We have the software engineering background. People probably already know you, but you're starting to get into AI as well.
For sure, yeah. So I've been a software engineer now probably like 7-8 years. Hard to quantify because I started coding all the way back when I was 12 years old. And I've had this YouTube channel now, Tech with Tim, for about 6-7 years, where I teach software engineering, programming, and recently a lot of AI stuff. Like you said, AI is like a growing industry. So many companies getting into it. We now have so many easier ways to use AI, like all these agent frameworks. We have like LangChain, Llama Index, all of those kind of things. So I've been learning it recently, and I've been making a ton of tutorials, kind of teaching people about how to build AI agents and all of that stuff. I do software development, all kinds of languages, Python, JavaScript, Go, you name it. So I've kind of been all over the place, and now excited to kind of dive into this AI space and talk to you about it.
For sure. Great to have you here. So let's just get started with okay, you're a software engineer, you're about building systems and so on, full stack, both back end, front end, and so on. Now AI, how do we get into AI as fast as possible? Because I feel like most people then need to know the full stack. We both need to know AI, we need to know front end and back end as well. And also if we're talking about AI agents and all of that, as you mentioned, in the future, it's all going to be okay, how do we build software systems? AI is just one part of it, as I mentioned in the intro as well. So how do you learn all of these stuff? How do you get into AI and how is your approach?
For sure. So obviously there's a lot of stuff we can talk about with that. But for me, whenever I want to learn something new, especially being a bit more experienced now as a software engineer, I always pick some kind of problem or something that I want to achieve. So if I want to learn about AI agents, for example, I'm going to make some kind of goal. Like I want to build an AI agent that manages my email inbox. Whatever, it doesn't matter what it is. It's just something that makes a nice mini project so that when I start learning about things, I can immediately apply it. We talked about this in the past, but theory is one part of it. Sure, you're going to read some documentation, maybe watch a few videos like ones from your channel, get a general kind of lay of the land and the landscape and what's going on. But then from there, you've got to tackle some kind of problem. The only way to learn something is to apply it to something that you want to do. So I pick some goal and then I immediately start learning little bits, looking up documentation, using ChatGPT, using AI to learn AI, which is ironic, and then slowly kind of building out some mini projects until I feel more comfortable with the framework.
Yeah, for sure. Makes perfect sense also because as I mentioned, as well on my channel and so on, I'm pushing this now because there's a huge gap between going from the theoretical part into the real world business use case and so on. So the approach that you're taking, you're actually starting with a problem and then you're trying to figure out, okay, how do I get to this solution? Because if you start with it from a theoretical standpoint, you just learn a bunch of different stuff that you don't really need down the line. You don't need to know just to be able to apply AI. You don't need to know how the layers work. How do you train the models? How does it work down to the mathematical level? How does the model learn? Okay, you can take your data, you can find a model, you can find a framework and so on, you can train it, you can deploy it, and then you can use it in your software systems. So it's way more about that compared to knowing how to do the AI research and so on.
Absolutely. And look, all of those things are important. And I think if you want to be an AI engineer, at some point you should learn them. But you don't want to just spend 25 hours going through an AI course and never do a project or never apply. You're just going to lose all of that information. So for me, I want to do things as fast as I possibly can. A lot of times I'm trying to push a YouTube video out or I'm trying to finish some kind of project. So I start with that goal. But then after that, sure, I'll go and I'll refine my skills. I'll learn about, your core machine learning algorithms, linear regression, all those kind of things, build the fundamentals. But small, right? Steps at a time. And then I'll apply them and kind of go in that progress. So rather than doing 25 hours of theory and then 25 hours of project, it's an hour of theory, a few hours of project. Hour of theory, a few hours of project. I just find it's a lot better way to learn. And what ends up happening is it forces me to find the little piece of information that I need where I might come across those topics and I will learn them, but only if I need to for this specific task. So yeah, I can leave some gaps in the knowledge, but I find that it's a lot more efficient to do it that way. And yeah, it's what I've been doing for the past few years now, rather than just binging massive courses before taking any action.
Yeah, sure. I've also been going through your course with the full software engineering. I think that's kind of the same approach that you're taking in there. So can you talk about your software engineering course that you have as well? And what does it give you? How is the project structure? is there actually like the projects for actually like that you can apply directly to the real world business use cases. I also have like a ton of people that want to get into freelance work, start to get into the corporate world, like actually like start to solve real business use cases.
For sure, yeah. So I think like when you're just starting out and you're a complete beginner, which is what my program's designed for, which is different from yours, there is like a good amount of theory you have to do up front. Sure. It's unfortunate, but at least when you're starting, like you got to know if statements and for loops and functions before you can go build like a huge project. So there is a lot of theory in that course, and it teaches you pretty much all of the technical stuff, like all of the skills you need to be competitive at a junior software engineering level. So we go through JavaScript, we go through HTML, CSS, React, we teach you Go, we teach you data structures and algorithms. Like it's pretty much all of the important things that you would learn in a computer science degree, but just that, not all of the other garbage. And then after you finish that, you pick a specialization in front end, back end, or DevOps, which is actually taught by someone else who's an industry in that field, or industry expert, in that field. Because you need to be really good in one area, especially nowadays, to be competitive in the market, whether it's freelancing or getting a job. And obviously, yes, we have project, we have exams, we have questions, all of that kind of stuff that you would expect in a course like that. But that's how we really get people from zero or little experience to competing and actually landing software engineering jobs, which we've done successfully now over the past few months.
So it's way different compared to like traditional education. Of course, you need to know some theory, but if you're going like through a five-year master degree or something like that's a lot of theory where most of it, you don't really need it. Of course, you learn some different areas and stuff like that. You get more complete. But if you just want to get into software engineering, solve business use case, could be that you want to do freelancing, get into jobs and so on. Like you can do it in a different way. Like some people, like as you mentioned, you probably have some different guys as well that just took the course, got into positions and so on. If you can talk about some guys like going through that pipeline, you can start with the basics. Like you can learn programming, as I mentioned as well. It's all about like building software systems and so on. So it's easier to go get into AI from software engineering than the other way around. So if you're just starting out like with your course, doing the front end, doing the back end stuff, you have a very good understanding of like how do systems actually like work, and then you can build like the AI program on top of it. Where do you like, okay, freelancing, how do you stand out, how do you build a personal brand and so on, and then you pretty much have the complete package.
Exactly, and you're going to be so competitive if you do that, because so many people that get into AI, like they start with the goal of like, I want to be an AI engineer, which is fine. But if you come in like day one, you've never written a line of code, and you're like, okay, I want to learn AI. What's going to end up happening is you're going to get all of the theory, you're going to learn about all the algorithms, you're going to do all the math, all of this like PhD level stuff, but then you're going to get into the real world. All you're going to know is like some basic Python scripting and like a few little libraries, and you're not actually going to be able to make anything that's deployable that people can use. So like you said, if you want to be an AI engineer is the keyword here, you have to have all of the software engineering skills as well, and then add AI afterwards, which is kind of the route that I went when I was learning AI, and that's why I'm doing a lot of AI stuff now. And I find it's like super easy for me to build like cool AI applications, even if the AI component's not that complicated, because I know how to build all of the other software components that go into it. So you want to start with all of those fundamentals for sure. You can also be learning AI at the same time, but definitely focus on how do I be a good software engineer, and then take those skills and apply that into really any niche that you want. Obviously, AI being a key one right now.
Yeah, for sure.
And by the way, as someone who's more into AI than I am, this is like your main field. Like if someone went through something like my course, they finished the fundamentals and they want to like get into AI, like can you give me a roadmap? Like what should they start with? Should they learn all of the theory? Should they go right into projects? Like can you give me a few skills that they should focus on learning like right away?
Yeah, for sure. So it really depends. Like AI is a very broad space. So we both have like machine learning, deep learning, computer vision, and so on. But all of it is pretty much starting to come together now, even like natural language processing. But most of the algorithms, like if you're talking about AI, you're most likely like neural networks. So you basically just have some data, you train the models, and then you basically just use that model at the end. It's kind of like a black box that is just like learning. Of course, you need to know the math, fundamentals, and so on going behind it. But it's more when you want to get into it, like start with problems. You need to know the fundamentals. Like if you're taking your course, you know all the coding and so on. So we don't really need to take care of that. Like it's not too much coding. It's more about like, okay, how do we apply math and so on top of it. We don't need to apply the layers. We need to know like, okay, how does the layers work? What are the different types of networks and so on? So when you're starting out, it's more about like, okay, what are the different algorithms? What are the differences? It's not too much about like, okay, how do they work down on a mathematical, statistical level? Because that's very hardcore. You need like a math background. You need a statistics background. So when we're talking about AI engineering, like there's a big difference between AI research and AI engineering, where most people like, when you get into jobs and so on as well, like there's no resources to just like sit and do fine tuning, do some different modifications to layers and so on. Like that could take months of work. And if you want to get into positions like you have 100K salary or something like that, you spend 6 months just trying to come up with a new model, something like that, like that's 50K. No company has resource for that. We have Meta, we have Google, we have those big guys. Like they have resource to have like dedicated AI researchers. And the probability of you trying to beat those guys is very low. Of course, someone needs to work for those guys, but again, it's like being a professional soccer player. Like if you're aiming for that, you can get into those positions. But if you don't get into that and you're just like a mediocre AI researcher and so on, like you're not going to push the boundaries. So in my opinion, it's better just go like AI engineering, solve business use cases and so on. But of course, the personal preference depends on what you like and so on. If you just want to do research and so on.
So what I'm hearing is like focus on using what already exists, right?
Yeah.
Like learn the frameworks, learn
Yeah.
the tools, learn how to integrate with the LLMs, maybe get into things like AI agents. But I'm also hearing like the importance of the fundamentals, right? Like, okay, yeah, you don't need to be a math expert, but you should have like a basic kind of understanding of how at least some of the core machine learning algorithms work. I'll tell you what I did, and you can tell me if this is like a good route, at least when I was starting with machine learning. I started with things like the core machine learning algorithms, right? You have like k-means clustering, support vector machines, linear regression. Like there's a bunch of them, but like kind of those main ones, like the more simple mathematical ones that even if you're like grade 8, like you can understand, like it's not super complex math. Then after that, I went into neural networks. So I learned about like, the neurons and how they connect with the weights and the biases. Like again, I'm not writing my own gradient descent algorithm, but I'm just learning the basics of that. After that, convolutional neural networks for like image recognition, did a little bit of computer vision. And then honestly, I stopped AI for a while. And then recently I've been getting back into it and really focusing a lot more on things like AI agents, LLMs. And now there's so many like low code tools or no code tools or things like LangChain, where it's like so easy to build like basic AI apps. So is that like kind of a decent roadmap? Am I missing anything in there?
No, for sure. That's pretty much the best one, because you don't need all the fundamental understanding. You don't need to like be able to adjust the layers and so on. It's way more about like using what do we have. Okay, maybe you need to know like how can we retrain a model, how can we like structure data, because the most important thing is not really the models when we're talking about AI. It's more about the data. So you need to know what are the differences between the models. What are the differences between the different algorithms? What are you using it for in different use cases? If you know that, you're pretty much good to go. You just need to know, okay, how do we structure data? Because trash in is also trash out from the AI model. So it's get the data, train the models, and then be able to use it in the end.
For sure. And in terms of resources for learning that, like I know you have an AI program, but like let's say I want to do this for free, maybe I want to go online. Like, am I just watching YouTube videos? Should I read documentation? Like at least when you were learning it, what resources were best for you?
Yeah, so the best resource is definitely like YouTube. Everything is available in there. Even all the fundamentals with deep learning, machine learning, and so on is available on YouTube. I also cover like computer vision, deep learning, and so on. All of that is free on my YouTube as well, where my AI career program is way more about, okay, how do we take that and apply it to practical use cases? So all my courses, you need the fundamental understanding. It's more about like how do you train the models, how do you build projects, and how do you get that into the real world, either through freelancing or just landing an AI job. But yeah, YouTube is a very good resource, pretty much the best one out there. If you're reading documentation and so on to start with, might be a bit difficult if you're not familiar with it, but of course it's always good to do that. AI is very fast-paced. Like it's changing all the time. New models are coming out every single day. A very good resource is like Hugging Face. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but they have like a daily research papers tab. Like the first thing I do in the morning is just like take my phone, go to the daily papers, and then you can just see like a high-level overview, like just the 10 most upvoted papers from the previous day. So it's really important that you know how do you stay up to date, read research papers, just stay up to date with the new technologies, because you could be using old technologies and so on. Even if you get into jobs, this could be a very good competitive advantage for you as well, because most people, when they get into a job, they kind of just get stuck, they stop learning and so on. But if you just keep on grinding, if you keep on staying up to date with the new technologies, you have a very huge advantage, because it's changing every day. New models are coming out every single day.
For sure. And I know we talked about this on my channel as well, but maybe just for people watching this video, like if you want to stand out as an AI engineer, like it's so important to put your work out there. We were discussing that, right? Like you need to make this public. If you make a cool AI program, even if it's something simple that people have made hundreds of times, put it out there, post about it on LinkedIn. It's also fun. It's interesting to share what you've done. I remember when I was starting, I made the classic number guessing neural network, where you can draw a number and then you pass the pixels to the neural network and it predicts what the number is. It gets it wrong half the time, but it was still super cool. And I made a little video, I visualized it in Pygame, and I posted on LinkedIn, and from that I got a bunch of traction, and people are oh, can you build this AI app for me? You guys don't realize I'm a complete beginner, but it's the illusion, right?
For sure.
So many people just aren't sharing what they're doing, and they might do something really interesting, But if you just put it out on LinkedIn, if you post it on like Medium has great stuff when it comes to especially learning machine learning and AI. Like you'll be so surprised how much traction you get, and like you could potentially get jobs from even that one random person coming across your article that's like looking for someone to do this exact thing.
We even have examples of that inside the career program. So
really?
Why do you think that people are not posting or like putting their work out there?
It's a good question. Like I think people see maybe influencers, us like more like mega influencers that have like hundreds of thousands of followers, and they think you need to like achieve this level. It needs to be your full-time job. It needs to be like you need to be the best speaker on camera with the best. They don't realize like all you have to do is start. Like if you go back and look at my YouTube channel, probably yours as well, 7 years ago, like the videos are horrible. Like it's not some crazy professional level thing. It's like in a crappy microphone. I'm 16 years old talking, but I just did it. I just didn't care. I just started. People are embarrassed. They think it's like this massive amount of work. They think they need to stay committed to it for months and months and months. Obviously, those things help, but you just need to show that you exist on the internet. Like in today's world, unfortunately, it is about like exposure, right? Like you need to use the kind of digital landscape in real estate to show your skills. You need to have a website. You need to have a LinkedIn portfolio. You need to have GitHub. You should have Instagram. You should have Twitter. Like you should be everywhere you possibly can. And trust me, even as a social media guy, I hate that because I don't like posting my life and stuff on social media, but you kind of just have to do it nowadays because that's how people find each other. Like, sure, you can go the traditional route and apply with resumes and whatnot, but that is just outdated, at least for me, when it comes to getting jobs. Like now, if I want to land some kind of job, I'm just going to DM someone on Twitter or I'm going to reach out to them on Instagram because I have a following. So yeah, I think people are just scared to start and they don't realize like you don't need to post hundreds and thousands of times. Even posting once a month about a cool project you worked on already puts you ahead of like 95% of people.
For sure. And then it's all about like staying consistent. But the hardest step is definitely the first one.
For sure, just starting and also being okay with the fact that like maybe some troll is gonna like leave a downvote or say that this project sucks. But like especially on LinkedIn, it's such a professional platform that you're gonna get all the great work, good job. Like you're gonna start building. LinkedIn is such an amazing like organic platform. Like I have a YouTube channel, 1.6 million subscribers. This video, well, it's on your channel. But videos on my channel sometimes only get like 20, 30K views. On LinkedIn, I can post something with like 1/10 of the following and get like 10x the views. So you can just get really organic following and you don't need to be a mega influencer. Like if you have a small account and even if that's on your resume or you're sharing that with someone, that acts as your portfolio. That's a demonstration of your skills. And it's a lot more impactful than whatever you wrote with AI on a piece of paper for your resume, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And it's all of job are just getting started. Like most people, I think they're holding back because like they're scared of getting started. What are people thinking? Like I even had the same thoughts when I started out, like doing YouTube videos and so on. Like I know that a lot of my classmates and so on, like they started to like find my YouTube videos on like find my videos on YouTube. I was kind of like scared of that, even like telling family and all that, like you're doing YouTube. I was not comfortable like sitting in front of the camera, like just been playing computer games and all that, like just sit in front of the camera, just do something, but I just thought like, okay, I just need to do this thing. I like it. The worst case scenario is that you will become a better version of yourself. Like my English has improved significantly. I know how to stand out. I know how to like act like get a good first impression in front of a camera, like get into freelance work, all those opportunities and so on that has given me. Even when I started out, it was just about, okay, can I make a YouTube channel, get some followers, maybe learn a ton? Because also by putting out your work out there, you feel kind of like a attraction of staying up to date with the new stuff. You need to, I need to learn now. I need to learn this. I need to put out posts. Or I need to go basically just do a lot of research and basically just keep expanding your knowledge. So it also helps with just pushing you because you feel like, okay, I need to put stuff out there. I'm actually putting out stuff there. I don't want people to laugh at me. Of course, like most people, they have these thoughts, but it's not really the real world. Like, of course, you will get someone like saying stuff, but maybe you get like one out of 100 act like a negative. But it doesn't really matter. As I normally say, like if you're doing the exact same thing as everyone else, how can you expect to get something that everyone else doesn't have? So it's all about that.
100%. Yeah, it's definitely a motivator. And I think that is making me realize like the technical skills, yes, they're not easy to get, especially in an engineering field, but anyone can get them with enough time, right? Like everyone at some point will build, base level competency in software engineering or in AI if they put in enough time. That's not the hard part. The part that people always, complain about is that I can't get a job or no one looks at my resume. But the fact is they're doing, like you said, the same thing everyone else is doing. They're pressing the apply button 50 times a day with no effort, right? They don't have any kind of social media presence. They're not working on any kind of projects on the side. So the important thing is really like, how do you present yourself? How do you demonstrate that you actually do know what you're doing? And how do you come across as professional and confident? It's not easy. It takes time to do that. I didn't used to speak like this back when I was, 15, 16 years old. But that's the part that's really going to make you stand out. So once you build those core technical skills, sure, keep refining them, but focus on, improving the other areas. You need to be well-rounded as a developer, people that can communicate well, people that have strong social profiles, people that kind of just display that competency. Those are the people that land those jobs. Those are the people that get in those positions. And I mean, you can see this yourself with all of the people talking about, I landed a job at Google or Facebook.
Oh, sure.
They all have similarities, right?
Yeah.
And that's what you need to focus on. So as a developer, get the technical skills, but really focus on those other areas as well if you want success in your career.
Yeah, for sure. And also when we're talking about like building full-scale software systems, because I'm trying to push that now. I really enjoy like building larger systems and so on. But also like if you just have the following, if you just like have a network and so on, it's way easier to get out there. Like I would never start a software like company or like try to come up with a product, something like that, if I didn't have my YouTube, my network and so on, because it's really hard to do. Like people that hear about the story, like Mark Zuckerberg from his dorm room, he created Facebook and so on. But he was not just like a random guy sitting somewhere at like a mediocre, like low-level university or whatever, like even high-end university and so on. You need to have followers, you need to have contacts and so on. And even if you say like the probability of you becoming like the next Mark Zuckerberg is really low. Of course, you can aim for it if you want to do that. But again, the chance of success is very low compared to like if you just try to just follow the other path, like build systems, build your network and so on. It's going to help you a ton. So right now, if I want to create, I can start create software systems now. I can start to create like projects and so on that I know, okay, we can get funding, we can get a lot of money in, we can actually like build something. So instead of like just trying to solve, because it could be that you're building a software system, solving a problem and so on, but if you don't know that there's a need for a problem, if you don't have like guys backing you with money and so on, it doesn't really matter. Like you can spend 1-2 years. I've seen so many examples of this and you've probably heard about it as well, like 90-95% or so on of startups fail. But those are actually just like all startups in general. But if you have a competitive advantage, it's all about having a competitive advantage. And in today's world, like so many people that are just doing the exact same thing. So you don't have to do that much. So sometimes it's even like good that you're scared of getting started because it pushes you, it motivates you. When you're putting your work out there, you get more motivated to actually like put out good quality content. And if you just do that, that's the only thing that you have to do. Maybe on LinkedIn, I spend 2, 3, 4 hours creating posts in total per week, not even 4 hours, like probably 2 hours. And the return I get on that investment of time, like I don't even feel like I'm working when I'm writing the LinkedIn post because again, I'm just sitting on social media, just scrolling social media. But at the end of the day, like that's probably the highest return I have on my time.
100%. Yeah, you got to find any advantage you can, and like the small advantages add up, and you have to realize like most people just aren't doing them. They're not motivated. Like it doesn't take that much to be really good at what you do. You just have to be a little bit better than everyone else. So all those small advantages, like that's what you need to focus on, and anything that you can get, you got to take, right? Especially when you're starting out. Once you build some success in your career, you're fine, you're set. You now have the experience. But if you want to break in, it is hard, it takes a lot of effort. But if you're willing to put in probably like 6 months to a year worth of work, then you're set. That's it. You just got to do that, right?
Sure. And if you're not willing to do that, but you want to like spend 5 years there getting a degree, like it's pretty much a no-brainer in my opinion, and you can pretty much learn whatever you want. It's all about like finding your passion. If you find your passion, like you can make a living of it. You don't have to just be an AI engineer or like be a software engineer, take a computer science degree, and then after that figure out what you actually want. Just figure out what is your passion, figure out what you want, and then just go for that straight ahead.
100%.
Yeah. So I think we pretty much covered everything. How to get into AI as fast as possible. Both have the fundamentals, have the practical experience, how to actually like build software systems, both on the back end, front end, AI module as well. So we basically have the full pipeline, everything ready. How can you actually like get into it as fast as possible? We also talked here in the end about, okay, how do we actually like apply this to business use cases? How do we actually like build our personal brand and so on? And it kind of like all just goes hand in hand.
100%. Yeah, thanks for having me on. By the way, if you guys are watching this and you are just getting started and you don't have the fundamentals down yet, I do have a course. It's also a free course, about an hour and a half long. You can check it out from the link in the description. And of course, if you're getting into AI, then you already know this guy has one.